Hi everybody, this is Harry Jacobs and I am the North of 60 Gamer, and welcome to the North of 60 Gaming channel. How are you doing today? This is my first video of 2022. It's a balmy minus 34 degrees Celsius outside, and New Year's Eve was a balmy minus 40 with winds gusting up to minus 50, yet they were out there watching the fireworks on Frame Lake. But today we are going to bring a different type of game. It is MiniQuest Adventures. It is a 16-bit game. I think it's in the style of a 16-bit game. It is a dungeon crawler where you will take a band of adventurers through a roguelike generated dungeon and try to gain treasures and money and kill monsters. So they say. I have yet to see it. There are no other play videos out there at the moment, so hopefully this will be the first, and you will see it here on North of 60 Gaming. Let's get down to the table and have a quick look at the box. So here we are looking at the MiniQuest Adventure box, and this is not a big box at all, but it is fairly hefty. It's for 1 to 4 players, 14 and up, and it takes about 45 minutes to play. On the back, what does it say? It says, MiniQuest Adventures is a dungeon crawling game for 1 to 4 players in book format in the purest 16-bit video game style. Each game will generate a random dungeon that players must clear in the hopes of reaching and defeating the final boss. The heroes will receive rewards such as weapons and equipment at the end of each dungeon that they clear. These rewards will help them to defeat the enemies they encounter and increase their chances of survival against the dungeon bosses. And that is what is on the back of the box. So let's open up the box and see what's inside. So we're going to open up the box, and the first challenge, as always, is to get that shrink wrap off. That is a challenge. I don't know whether it's an age thing or just a Harry thing. I'm suspecting a little bit of both. Oh, I'll get this stuff. I will get this. I think it's really cold in this room too, by the way, because it is minus 34 outside, as I said. Here it is. Let's open the box if we can. Let's see if we can do this without a lot of fuss. I often have a lot of trouble. There we are. There are the rules in front, and we have a bunch of rules in different it looks like German and French, as a matter of fact. So we'll just put those to the side because I will not be using German or French, though I do have some French friends. We have our first book. This is the Mini Dungeon book, as you can see. There's the instructions. Oh, we have a QR code. And there we have what looks like a dungeon. We'll turn it this way. What looks like a dungeon and various different dungeons. I'm sure this will come clear to us. I'm assuming what happens as you move from dungeon to dungeon, like a 16-bit game, is that you're going to go and you're going to start on this page, and you're going to enter, go out here, kill those monsters. I assume that's what those are. Go out the door and come into the next room and do the same thing over and over again. But that's kind of neat, and we'll figure that one out in a moment. Here's the next one. This is a castle dungeon book, and there's instructions. I have no idea. I'm going to have to use a QR code. There's your start by the looks of it. You come in, and you just keep moving through it, I assume. Or maybe there's a bit of randomness to this. I don't know. We will have to check it out, but it's good quality. The books are almost hardboard, like old kids games or old kids books. We have some very, very tiny tokens, though. Looks like we have some orcs and some heroes and a bunch of other things. And we'll take a look at them after we sort them out. I probably will put them in some geek boxes. There's a geek box right there, but I do have some other types of boxes. Looks like we have some character boards. Then there's their bag and character, how many times you've died. So obviously 3 deaths. And equipment. So we have 4. We've got a spacer. We have some cards. And we'll take a little close. Oh, look at these itty bitty cards. Oh my god, I don't even know if I can sleeve those. They're itty bitty cards. Oh! Well, this is something. Look at that. Metal. Metal figures. Wow. That is awesome. We got some dice. We look like we have some reward cards, and we look like we have some monster cards. And these look like they might be standard cards. The finish on them is very nice finish compared to some of the other ones. So we got a nice finish. We got some good weight on those cards. I am not sure what those size are. They might be FFG mini Euros as opposed to mini American. We're going to check that out, and we're going to sleeve them, and we're going to take a closer look at the components once I sleeve the cards. I am a compulsive sleever. Here are the rules in the other languages, of course. So let's just put these back in the back so we take a quick look at the rules. Oh, here we are. There's the rule book and the preparation, and it plays from how many? 1 to 4 players in a book format. Okay, we've read that. Preparation, pick up a character sheet. So the victory and defeat. To win the game, players must clear all the dungeons successfully and are defeated when they die all the same level, on the same level. If they've received too many death markers. Oh. If you have 0 life points, you've died. And if you've accumulated 3, that is the end for you. Difficulties and ranges, setups, difficulty and, what does that say? Difficulty and duration. Now guys, I do say that I do have cataracts and reading is a little bit difficult. Not terribly difficult, but not good enough, not difficult enough, not bad enough to get an operation, but still a little bit challenging then again. And we're going to go through the rules once we look at the rules and learn how to play the game, which is what we're going to be doing next. But that is what's in the box. And so we're going to go down and we're going to start, I'm going to organize this, and then we're going to put this on the table and start playing it. So we'll see in a few, and we'll be back to see MiniQuest Adventures. We have now organized our MiniQuest Adventures. Before we start, first off, I'd like to say that these are the 2 sleeve sizes that we have used, the Mayday sleeves. These are the typical 2.5 by 3.5, so anything that's magic or pretty much standard. These are the minis. These are the yellow Maydays. They're 1 5/8 by 2.5 or 41 by 63. And those are the sleeves. However, the small cards are actually smaller than this, but I don't have smaller than this. So I think they're an off size, but I'm not entirely sure 100%. So one of the things that I've noticed, and so what we have done is we've organized it, and you can see nothing fits in the box at this point. So that is typically a pet peeve, that I know they intended to keep it small, but guys like me who are OCD about organizing their games and keeping things straight typically like things a bit more organized. Okay, so on top is the rule book. Here's our 2 adventures. Now, what I thought there would be something more to it in here. This is just takes you to basically this. I was really hoping that there'd be like a setup or something that, you know, that made this game a little bit special. So one of the things I've really noticed, and again, this is something that was echoed on the forums, is that one of the things that there's a lack of the why. Why are we doing this? Why are we going off and killing these monsters? And I can understand, you know, it's an 8-bit game and you're going to do a little bit of a dungeon crawl. But all in all, it really doesn't say why we're there. Here, go and kill some monsters. Why do I want to do that? So there's really no narrative other than, an arcade game where you're going to go in and just kill some monsters and go across. And they have a very unique way of doing it. It took a while to sort of read this a few times before I actually got what's going on. And we're going to explain that once we get into the rules. And we'll show you a bit more once we go to the setup, and we'll show you how this all works. So you can see now that I have used my geek boxes, and there's not a lot of room in here. I've got 3 geek boxes in here, and maybe I'll switch to one of these again. I have a couple more of these. I'm not entirely sure, and you can see them all mixed up though. I'm really not a fan of these little itty bitty pieces. Now I get that this is supposed to be a small game, but oh my God, this is really not. I'm not 100% happy with this. I'd say that they could have done better. This isn't that thick, so if you look at the counter compared to some other games, this is about half of what normally is what I would consider a counter. This takes me back to the 70s where the old Avalon Hill or SPI games, and these little flimsy counters. However, okay, putting that aside, the cards are excellent quality, so you can be forgiven around this. The book is excellent. These are excellent. So other than the cardboard, and we put it out of our mind, we're good. I mean, it's not 100%, but it's good. Certainly these are our cards, and these are our heroes. These are our reward cards. Here are, I'm not sure what these are. These are our terror cards, and each turn you play, or each dungeon you play, has a different plus for the enemies. And this is the enemy deck. We have some dice. We have our enemies, and there's lots of enemies. But that's what's sitting in the box at the moment. So we are going to now have to figure out how to play this game, and I have been reading the rules. I would say the rules could have been maybe a little bit easier to read, but we're going to muddle through them in a moment or two, and we're going to set the game up. And we're going to go through at least a demonstration of how this system works. And then we will play, and we're going to try to get through a dungeon or two, depending on the length of time it takes to get through one of these. This really, when you start looking at it, and we are looking at the dungeon book, is a tactical battle game. So we're going to enter our dungeon, and basically we are going to fight these monsters here. And then when we complete these monsters, we're going to move on to another dungeon. Now you can see that the dungeons have different colors. Like if you look down here, let me just bring this in a little bit closer. So on the dungeon, you can see a 1, a Roman numeral 1, and then a 1. Interpretation of the rules. And this took a while to figure out, because I was thinking, how the hell do you set this up? Well, how do I pick a dungeon? So what we're going to do is basically, the first dungeon is we're going to take it as a number 1. And then we're going to roll the dice. And there's 6 of these different dungeons, all 1. And then we'll take that dungeon. Like say that's a 4. Then what will happen is we're going to go to the 2s. And then we're going to pick another dungeon. We're basically going to roll a dice. And then we'll take a 2. And then we're going to go to 3, 4, 5, and 6. Or actually 5. I believe it is. Yeah, 4. And then there's a boss monster. There we are. Which is typically the 5th. And then we're going to fight our boss monster. And that is the end of the game. So the idea is to get through an entire set of adventures. Now there are different rules that allow us to go through this and say a quick start guide where you're really only going to do a 1 set versus a full set. And so there's some variance, and you can make it harder or easier for you as well. But that's what is in the box after I've organized it. So let's get down, and we're going to start to take a look at this game and sort of decompose the different bits of it and set it up and start playing. So one of the things I'll say about the rules is they're backwards, to my opinion, or in my opinion, they are backwards. There's a game summary, which is good. There's a preparation, basically says, sort out the cards. The victory and defeat conditions, basically we want to be able to traverse the dungeons without dying 3 times, which is a typical 16-bit game, right? 3 lives. Then it goes into a solve an encounter. And then I went like, wait a minute here. So if I was organizing a book, why would I start with this when you should be looking to start over here? So there's your components in the middle of the book. And I think this is causing some confusion on Board Game Geek, and I was reading about the Board Game Geek. And then here's your different stuff. This is what I would expect to see at the front of the guide, is this section. And then here is the bosses. So this would be at the end. Yes, I would see all this stuff at the end. Now, one of the things that is missing is a quick reference. I would love to see a quick reference guide on this, because, now you're going to have this out on the table rather than just on a card, maybe a tarot-sized card or maybe 3 or 4 cards, because each player is going to want to have a card rather than pass the book. Now, this is easily solved because I could just, photocopy it. But still. So, and then, after you figure out, well, where are my components, then you got to go back and then you go, it doesn't really talk about setting up, and it goes, okay, here's the game sequence. There's the setup, initiate, cue. So this would come after. Okay, that's pretty good. And then we talk about solving encounters. That's great, but how do I get to an encounter? So I do have some issues with the rule book here, and hopefully maybe in the next printing of this, perhaps, that they will address some of these issues that doesn't make sense to me as a player. I'm not saying that the rules are bad, but they're just not in the right order, and kind of very confusing to say, well, the components are at the end, and then we move back here, but I don't understand what am I setting up and how am I setting this up, and then they don't really talk a lot about some of the stuff in here, and so I don't know if the rules are complete. They don't feel complete to me. That's my personal opinion, of course. So anyway, let's muddle through the rule book and see how we can set this up, and I'm going to show you how that setup works, and then we're going to muddle through the play. And then at the end, we'll give some final thoughts to whether I like this or not. I really do hope I like this. Now, it wasn't particularly expensive, but it just scares me a little bit that really what we're looking at is a version of this. This is Deckbox Dungeon. And I think we're really just looking at a version of this, only in a mini quest. That's my first impression. So my first impression is I have Deckbox Dungeon that cost me like $20. And yes, it has an app, and it's got all these cards, but really I don't know whether or not this game offers much more of an experience in terms of a crawler than Deckbox Dungeon, which has a much smaller footprint. Again, just my opinion. With that being said, let's get down to the table. So here we are. I've sort of started this setup. I just put this book for reference so I could lay the game out a little bit, and we'll just move these things up just a touch so you can see everything. And I'll remove myself once we sort of set this up. So one of the first things that we're doing is setting up the game. The game does not specify when it says it's 1 to 4 players, but it doesn't say how many of the characters are we actually going to play with. So I'm going to assume that this is a typical crawler that we're going to take at least 4 characters. So the first thing it says to do, and I'm looking at the rules right here. Now again, we are setting this game up from the rules. I have never played this game, so you're seeing this game just the way I'm going to learn it. And here are our 4 character boards. And then we're going to go to a different page. Now, so this is what gets me here. Each hero's initial setup is on page 19 to 20. Why would you send me to the back of the book to set something up? So again, this goes back to usability, right? Here's your preparation, and then you should have 2, set it up. Okay, here's setup. We go right to victory and defeat. We haven't even set up, and you're telling me what the victory and defeat is. Now, you could put that up in the game summary, perhaps, but it doesn't belong here. It belongs at the end of everything that we're doing. What is the victory? And that's my opinion, of course. So we're going to turn to page 19 and 20, and let's just see if we can make some sense of this. Again, we are learning this game as I go along. So each of our heroes, here we are. The heroes are the protagonists of the adventures. Players must embody one or more of them to play. So this kind of hints that the game is always played with 4 heroes. So why am I going to the back of the book for this? Regardless of the number of players, you cannot play with 2 heroes of the same color. So that's interesting. So in other words, we're going to get a mix of classes, I'm assuming. So here we are. We have our different heroes, life, movement, starting equipment, a skill, and that's what we're going to start with. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to pick our heroes and we're going to set our heroes up. So I'm going to just put this down, and I'm going to do that. So we're down on the table, and the first thing we do is we've got our heroes ready. And so I have taken 4 heroes, and I have taken Bilbo Silent Hand, and he is our ranger, and he has a crossbow, a leather armor, and of course his skill is Gloomy Blow. We have Fiinal Earthrock. She has a short sword, a light spear, and onslaught. And this actually goes up here with our cleric, who is Tatiana Earthrock. And she has arcane shot. She has a wand, she's cloth, and she has a spell funnel. And then we have Morlog Greyblade, and he's got a sword, hardened leather, and he has a skill Bloodlust. And here I pulled out their turns, and these are based on initiative. And what happens when we take our monsters? We're going to put our first player, then a monster, first player, then a monster, and a first player, and a player, and a player. And that's how the turns are going to work. More on that when we actually get to the playing of the game. We've also taken the monster cards, and these are the blue monsters, just the regular monsters at this point in time, because we're only playing the first scenario at this point, and we give them a good shuffle. I've already pre-shuffled them, but we'll give you a couple more shuffles just to show you that I am not pre-setting these up. And then we're going to place them up on the board just here. I'm going to clean this up in a minute, and we're going to take a little farther view because I need that space to set up the queue. But I just wanted to be a little lower down so that you can see what's going on here. So one little change I'm making, instead of using the metal figures, which I can't really use here, or the little tiny discs where you're not going to be able to see the figures down here on the board, I switched it out for my Meeples of Might. This is a kind of fun Meeples that I picked up on Amazon. It also has Meeples of Menace, and we're probably going to try to use these too, depending on the monsters. That way you can see a little better about what we're doing here on the board. As you can see, they are a little bit bigger, but I think all in all we'll be okay once we get started and we can separate them out a little bit. So of course our bowman is here in the red, and there he is here, Bilbo Silent Hand. We have Tatiana here. We have Morlog here. And of course, over here is our other knight, Fiinal Earthrock. And we are ready to go that way. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to pick out which actual dungeon we're going to start with. And to do that, we're going to roll our dice. And we are going to start with the number 1 dungeons, which you can see right in the corner here. And we're just going to roll up and see which particular dungeon it's going to be. So we're going to roll this dice right here. And it's a 6, so it's going to be a 1 and then a 6. We're on 4, 5, and 6. So we are walking into a very, very tiny spot. So while you can't see it, there's a little green square right here. And that's where where our heroes are going to come into our little tiny dungeon. So let's pick our 2 monsters. And our first monster is going to be a goblin. And there we are. That is our goblin. And we're going to find a token for them in just a moment. I think we have goblins in our meeples of menace. And our second monster is a orc. Now I'm just going to put the rest of these cards away just to save space. And get them off the board. We don't need these monsters again until the next round. And we'll do the same with the elite and boss monsters. Okay. Now we're going to go into... I was going to use these tokens, but I should have meeples of menace. We've got our monster started. We have our lineup here. So we have Molag here. We have Faunalina here. We have Bilbo and, of course, our Tatiana. So they're lined up ready to come into the dungeon. This is a tiny, tiny dungeon, and we have 2 monsters. And this red here is impassable, so we can't even travel on it. So basically, we're going to have our 2 tanks here, and we're going to have to put our ranged here. And basically, what we're going to do is clear this dungeon out, and that is all we need to do. So one of the things we're going to do is I want to explain what the dice are for. Now, the dice replace the health counters, the power tokens, and basically the armor or absorption at each turn. So basically what we're going to see is that we have 5 life, 4 power. 4 power triggers their special abilities. And of course, they have an armor value of 2, and that's going to be reduced every time they take a hit, to the point to where then they start taking life. We can see that our tank here has 7 and 4 power, and a 1 defense with her shield. We have 6 life, 3 power, and 3. So he's our main tank, and we're going to probably want him against our nice big strong orc. And then we have 1 here against our spellcaster, who we're going to probably want to protect. And of course, here we have our chits. So we're going to just remove them off the board, again, to save even more space. We'll remove that as well. What we're going to do is, at this point in time, we're going to just move these over where you can see them just a little bit better. There's a bit of shininess here. I try my best to keep it from being super shiny. And I might be able to darken the room a little bit in a moment. Let's just see. We'll just move them over a little bit. There we are. I think that's a little better. What do you think? There's our dice, and don't mind the little white specks. I have dogs. This mat is brutal to keep clean. So we have so what's going to happen at this point is we're going to take our turn markers, and we have a Molag, and we're going to put Molag first. Then our Goblin's going to go. Then Tatiana is going to go. Then our Orc. So we're going to go this way. Then our Ranger. And then our inevitably lovely Wizard. Again, we're going to just move them down so they're not maybe as shiny. There we go. And what we're going to do is I am going to take a marker. Yeah, we'll just use, excuse me for a moment. I got stuff all over the place. They do have a little initiative counter, but let's just take a big old coin right there, and we're going to use that. And that will show you whose turn it is, and we're going to go through the queue. That is the complete setup for the game. We are ready to play. Now, I must admit, the setup was a bit finicky because these little tiny cards, there's a big pile of them, and you have to go through them. I'm going to pull these out and make sure they're in with the cards for these guys for the next time. This is going to be a problem in terms of videotaping, but I think we'll be okay once we're in here. It's going to be a tight squeeze. It's a pity that these weren't just a touch bigger. But that's okay. We're gonna make do because we have a big ass orc here, and we'll just put him up so like that, and we'll put our goblin up because we know that the red is the gobby and the green is the orc, just like that. So sorry about that. That is the best I can do here, and we are ready to play. So one of the things we're going to do is we are going to play on the easier level, and you can see that right there, and we're going to be able to start using our skills from the first level right up to the end. The reason being, I just want to make it easier, and I don't think we may not play right through to the end. We may skip and go to a boss fight, and then we'll figure it out. Armor is only good for the round, so as these are gone, their defense is gone, so they will lose and take damage through the entire round, and the round is actually 4 of the mini dungeons, and then we go to the boss dungeon. I said 5 earlier. It's 4 and then 1 boss dungeon. The wizard is allowed to carry spells in their bags, and they can switch at the beginning of the dungeon. They can switch and give each other equipment. Right now, we really don't have much equipment to give each other, nor are we going to find equipment through it until we get to the end of the round, in which case then if we win against the boss, we'll be able to take some loot. Or at the end, I'll have to look that up when we get our loot. So again, these rules are a hot mess, and hopefully this video is going to help you. But so what we're going to do is, the first thing we do is a maintenance phase. We don't need to do that on the first turn, right? We're going to rest. We're going to regain our lost items. We're going to get our power points back, our defense points. Each one of these is an encounter. This is not wrote it. It says when you clear the final encounter. Well, the final encounter to me would be the boss monster. But what they're talking about is the final encounter within our sphere right there. Then we're going to rest. Then we're going to get loot. And then we're going to play again. So rest, we're going to turn our damaged equipment's face up. So once our equipment is damaged, it's going to go. The only markers that kept on the character sheets are the death markers. And we don't have any death markers yet. And then we're going to get loot. And when we complete an encounter, we'll receive 2 loot. And we're going to take 1 loot. And we're going to give it to one of these players, the leader of the particular round, which is our Morlog character, and then the leader token is going to exchange. So that would be the maintenance phase, is the very end. The first phase, of course, is the one where we're going to trade and get ready to go, set up, and then we're going to resolve the encounter. So we've set up the encounter, we're going to resolve the encounter, and then we go into a maintenance phase. These are all in different sections of the book. There's no logical flow to the book. So I'm hoping that this helps you to some extent. So we have finished the setup. Our queue is done. Our monsters are done. We're using dice instead of those itty-bitty counters. We're using the meeples of menace instead of the little tiny counters. And I'm going to be back in a moment. Our queue is set up. We have our dice rolling area. This game isn't too bad. So this area is about 2 feet by about 18 inches. So you could play this in a hotel room. I'm going on a cruise. So we're going to be going off and doing that. I still say at this point in time, we are really just playing a tactical adventure strung together with no narrative. Like, why am I fighting the boss monster? Why am I going in? There should be a feel of a campaign, and I think there's a little bit of a feel of a campaign, but there is no backstory. Each one of the boss monsters should probably have a backstory. Each one of our characters, a backstory. This would add to the value to me in the game, and they are missing in this game. I'm not saying that this makes it a bad game. It just makes it a little less appealing in terms of the value and the quality of the game. But let's play and let's have some fun. I mean, this is going to be fun because who doesn't like banging up on orcs and goblins? I do. So we're going to get down to the table and play. So we are ready to start. Our first initiative is with Morlog. So Morlog is right here. And the first thing he can do is he can move up to 6 spaces. The weakest is actually the goblin. So the goblin has 2 hearts, or 2 life, but he does have 1 damage. And we're going to do it a little bit backwards. So we are going to measure them with dice when they take hits. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to move our knight 6. He comes into the green 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we'll just lay him down like this so we know who's fighting who. There we are. So we have the goblin versus our knight. So the attack is as easy as, ouch. The attack is as easy as just taking our dice and rolling it. We can take the 1 dice. According to the rules, I will select one of the dice, and certainly counterattack is not one of them. So that is a critical strike. And then what's going to happen is that I'm going to roll another. So I have done 1 damage to our goblin. And we'll just use this marker here, green being life. And then we can roll again, and we have another critical hit. So we have actually killed our goblin very, very quickly. The goblin is dead. Ah! He'll come out of the initiative there, and the next turn will be our other tank. Right here, she has a movement of 4. So she's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And attack our orc. Oh, wait a minute. So he's not quite dead yet. He's gone through one of the... sorry. Oh, I've made a mistake. So the first damage actually got by his armor. And now we have 1 on his life. What our damage is. Our damage is actually 3 to our sword. So I'm going to go back and... So in our combat, we have a sword is worth 3 damage. He takes 1 damage to his shield, 2 damage to his life. So we are back to the original one where I have killed the monster. This game is super confusing in the rules of how things work. But that is how that works. That's great. So we actually did kill our monster, and we are here. We'll just lay him down here. We've come along and we did move our rogue, so we were correct just for the wrong reasons, and we've changed that up. And then we now are going to look at our character here, Finalia, who actually has a sword worth 2. She has a range of 1. Now, she could use her power, so she only has a 2. The orc is got a defense of 3. So she's going to use one of her power for the onslaught. And the onslaught's going to give her +1, so that's going to give her 3. So she's going to actually roll the dice. That is a shot, and we are not ranged. We've done 1 damage, which means we've done 3 damage to our orc, but the orc has 3 shields, and we've destroyed our shields. Now the orc hits for 3, but he has 5 life, and we haven't got past his life yet. So the orc now is going to attack our Finalia. He has a 1, so he's going to do a single hit of damage, which is 3. So she is going to go down to 4 life. Now, we have 2 ranged characters. Now, the problem with our ranged characters is that the line of sight is blocked. He can't come in and shoot because this red is a column. Think of it as a column. So, and he can't pass his... He can't shoot through him. So the only thing our wizard is going to do, because it's our... Actually, we're going to come this way. So he has a movement of 6. 1. But he can move and move. But that would put him over here. And then 1 corner to 1 corner. So all he has to do is get here. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for his first move. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can always move and move. You can move and attack, move and move, or just plain attack. Our wizard is just going to come in to the door. And the one thing I should have done, actually, is absorbed a damage. And here's, I think, another rule that we missed here is the light rule. Just see, what does light say? I think I get 2 attacks on the light. Range, defense, lightweight. Can strike twice when attacking if all equipped pieces are lightweight. Light shield and a short sword. Okay, so no, we can't. We need a light. But she has a +5. So I might have +5. Blocks 1 attack per turn if equal or exceeds the number indicated in the characteristic. Numerical die is rolled. So I can roll the dice, and if I get a 5, actually we can block the damage. We can block 5 points of damage. We do roll a 6, so actually in actual fact, we will actually go back to 7. We block the damage. However, our shield is still intact then, which is good, because we've blocked 5 points of damage. So we've actually did okay here. Again, there's a lot of little rules here, and the iconology is all in the thing. So let's move on. We've taken our wizard who's come in. We have now back to our Molag, who has 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He can't move there, and he's not going to get in close enough range. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He can't go here, so he's got to stay here. But he can move again, so actually he's going to go right here. We can attack now with our Fiinal. So she's going to roll the dice. She has a 1, so she is going to do up to 2 damage this time. And that is the end of her turn. Of course, now it's the orc's turn. The orc is now going to hit, and he can hit up to 5. So we're going to interpret this rule a little bit here. He is not a distance, so he can't use that. That is a counterattack. The counterattack lets me roll 1 dice. Which gives me a critical hit. So I am allowed to critically hit our counterattack, our orc. Now this is an interpretation of the rules saying that I can't use that. That means I have to use the counterattack, which says that I now have to do a critical hit, which allows me to roll again. So I've done 2 damage. So all they have to do is do a strike or a damage, and I roll a counterattack. So what that means is that we now chain this together, and now the orc is going to counterattack us. He gets a critical hit, which means once per turn, so this is the next round. So if he rolls a 2, he is going to strike. He is going to do 5 damage, which destroys our shield and takes us down to 4 life. And then he gets to roll again. The worst part is that if he does hit, he's going to do 5 damage because it's a critical damage, and the rules state that when you roll a critical damage, you roll again. He strikes. His weapon does 3 damage. Oh, sorry. So it's 3 damage. 1. Okay, then he's actually sitting at a strike, which is sorry. So I'm going to have to go back. I thought it was 3. So the first strike would have destroyed that, and then he would have gone from 7 to 5, and then he's going to do. So he's actually going down to 2 life. At this point in time, we are now at our ranger's turn. He is, if we take a corner to corner, he's actually there in striking range. However, he is within, he is within striking distance. However, because he's not more than 2 distance away, he's actually considered hand-to-hand, even though he's firing a crossbow, which is a 3. But he is piercing if he wants to do that. But he's already got his armor, so he's going to roll his 2 dice. All he basically has to do at this point is strike. He is considered hand-to-hand, remember, because he's within 1 or 2 spaces. He does strike. He does 3 damage. He is going to kill our orc, and we are victorious. Now that was all just a little messy in terms of the first dungeon. I think I basically got all the rules, but I am not 100% sure. So we'll just put these all up here. We may be using them again later. We are now going to put those into a discard pile. There are plenty of monsters. At this point in time, we have won. The first thing we're going to do is the maintenance phase, and we're going to just follow along in the rules. So some of these things, we are going to have pitfalls when you are learning this game because of just the way the rules don't flow. When you final encounter, okay, we did that. If the new attributes card, the Shredder's card in addition to any attributes, when the final encounter, except at the end of the final round, reveal a new threat card. So we are going to have a threat card for this round. So we're going to just do a little maintenance phase. So with our maintenance phase, I have reset all our dice back to where they belong. We'll take these out for the time being. We are now going to turn over one of these terror cards. And you can see we are going to have a +1 to life, +1 to armor, and +1 to attack for all our monsters. And that will accumulate through each of the plays at this point. The next thing we do is we're going to take our loot. The leader here, which is Molog, is going to take 2 of the cards. And he's got a Ripper blade and a refined leather, which is lightweight. And the Ripper, oh, that would be wonderful over here because it says she strikes twice if she has everything is lightweight. So it would be very nice to get that, but if she does that, so it will have an effect that allows her to strike twice. So after some discussion, as much as we would like to have the refined leather, having her strike twice with a ripper blade makes sense. So we're going to take that, and we're going to put the ripper blade there. It also has piercing as well, which means it bypasses armor. The short sword we're really not going to need. We can put it in our bag. I don't think there's anybody she could trade it with. I mean, I guess in reality, we could have a mage go this way with a wand, and so she can put it in her bag. Because I think we could have a battle mage. I don't think there's anything in the rule that says that we can have a battle mage and that mages can't have a sword. Okay, that makes sense. Or I could dual wield. But you don't dual wield here, so you'd have to choose one or the other. So I think what happens is, I think what we're going to do is we're going to follow along here. We've rested. We've given out our loot. And then we're going to exchange the leader token, which basically means he's going to go to the end of the line. And the next dungeon, we will pick out the next dungeon. So we're going to set up the next dungeon. Now, the dungeon now will be one of the number 2s. And you can see there's more monsters now. Except for maybe this one. So we're going to roll our dice. We have a 3. And we have 4 monsters this turn. So this is going to be interesting. So we are going to put this away. So with a roll of 3, we are now in 2-3. We have 4 monsters. We will go back into our deck and we'll pick 4 monsters. And of course it's going to go, basically every other one will have a monster. So let's just see what we get. The first monster is a hollow. Ew. 3, 1, 3, 4. Wow. Next monster is our famous orc. So we'll put our orc back. We'll figure out what we're going to do for a hollow here. We have a lizard man. Yum. There's nothing like a lizard man. And he is arranged as well. He can do 1 or 2. And lastly, we'll just reach over to the back here and a bug soldier. It looks like we got a little bit. Let's just see if we can give you a little bit more focus in here. So I'm going to look at my meeples of menace to see what we're doing here. So we're now set up for our second of the 5 encounters. Of course, 4 are the regular dungeons and 1 will be the boss monster. I don't know if we're going to play a full game. We're certainly going to go through a second round because I think there's more to see here. So we have our hollow monster, which is 3 life, 1 shield. We have our orc, which of course is 5 life and 3 shields. We have our lizard man, 3 life, 1 shield. I shouldn't cover my mouth, but I'm pushing my glasses up. 3 life, 5 shield for our bug soldier. Of course, we're going to enter in here. And we have reset everything. We have more of an open room. You can see that there are no obstacles. However, we do have an obstructed terrain, let's just say. The obstructed terrain costs 2 movement points instead of 1, as opposed to the red, which blocks. So there is line of sight throughout the room. So we do have some ranged characters. We have a lizard man who has a 1 or 2. That is still considered close encounters or a close melee striking range. It just means he's got a big, long reach. And that means we can't counterattack because we're farther away. So counterattacks really just are part of a chain. So you can build a chain of attacks if you have criticals and you roll a counterattack and then another counterattack. This could go on for quite a while. So we are ready to start our next round. Of course, our Fiinal Fiinal is ready to go. She is right here. And there is the entrance right over here. We'll just move these to clear it up. So here she is at the entrance. She does get 4 movement. She does get double strike. And she could do an onslaught for one of her powers. And she has knockback as well. So you can see onslaught has that little symbol there, which is knockback. And one of the things we did intend to do was to pass our short sword over to our wizard. Now we have Gandalf here with a wand or staff in one hand and a sword in another, going, "Argh!" So, which is great, I guess. I don't think that's a problem. So she starts over 3. She's a 4, so she has an onslaught. She's going to move in right to the lizard man. 1, 2. Though her attacker is this first. So I think she's going to move 2, 3, 4. So she can't make it. You cannot move diagonally. So 1, 2, 3, 4. No, the closest she can get is here. So I'm okay with that. So she's going to attack the lizard person. I shouldn't say lizard man. I should say lizard person. The lizard person has 1 armor and 3 life. We spent the power, so we've got +1, +2. So we have 3 at this point if we strike. We do strike. That's 3. So the best thing we're going to do out of here is we're going to take one of these counters and we're going to take it off. And then we are actually going to strike past that one. It has piercing, actually. So actually, piercing allows us to go right bypass the armor and just do 3 damage. So piercing does bypass the armor. She does 3 damage to this guy, which basically means he dies a quick death and didn't even make it. We'll take that, and we'll take this person. Our next up is our Hollow. He has a 3 movement. Now the rules do have specific AI movement, but basically he's going to move to our closest hero and attack 1, 2, 3. Again, we cannot move diagonally. He's going to roll 2 dice. I will always choose to attack. He does a strike. And he does 4 damage. So her shield takes the first damage. Well, we have to roll. So if she rolls a 5, she can actually block the damage. So he has to roll a 5 or 6. A 5. She actually blocks the damage. But it is a critical hit. So he does get to roll a dice again. This is great so far. He runs a shot. He misses because he's not a ranged character. We got extremely lucky there. Our bowman is going to come on right there. Where is he? Right there. Here he is. 1. He's coming in. He is one who probably want to take care of the arc. He is a 10 range. And you would get that from his bow. 2 to 10. So he's got... and you can't, again, not diagonally. So coming in, he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So he's not going to be able to get in there. So he's going to have to move closer. The minimum range would be 10. So we work backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So he's going to move into the room right to there. He is going to fire at the orc long range. He has to hit a critical or a shot. So he's going to roll a dice. He has his shot. He does damage, which is 3. So the orc is going to take 3 damage, which is going to wipe out the orc's shield. The orc now will take his 5 steps. He will move to the closest person. So he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's as close as he gets. It is now our wizard who now is going to come in. There we are. Her wand, she has a arcane shot or a funnel. So she's going to do an arcane shot, I believe. So she's going to come in and go 1, and her movement is 4. So 1, 2, 3, and that's as far as she's going to go into the room. She is now going to go and fire on our orc, who still has 5 left. So she's going to use her power. So she is down to 5 power. And she is going to use our spell, because it's the wand that allows her to do her spell. And she's going to zap him, and that's from 1 to 10, so we got lots of range. We can do 3 damage. It is a shot, though, so you have to do a shot or a critical. She is basically swished and has done nothing. It is back. It is our bowman. Nope, this is Morlog. He has a movement of 6. He's going to come into our room. Oops. And he's going to go... we're getting messy here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So here is Morlog right there. He is going to attack. He has a 3. He could do a bloodlust. So he's going to take his power, and he's going to fuel his bloodlust, which is going to give him +2 life. So he's going to go from a 6. Now he's already healed. I don't think... Oh, +2 life. Okay, he's powered his bloodlust. This will probably take him through the round. So +2, so we'll just put +2 here. To remind him he's +2 life. And now we're going to roll our dice. He does a critical. He's going to take his critical. So that basically means that on our hollow, he is going to do 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage, which is enough to break his armor and kill him. Oh, and we didn't take... Oh, not necessarily. Because we forgot we have a +1 armor here. So let's just re-roll that. So he should have 3 and 4. So 3. So he's good, and we should have an extra armor here and an extra life. So he'll have an extra life. So he should have 4 life. He should have 6 life. Okay, they're gonna have 6 life. There we go. That makes more sense now. I don't think there's anything I can do about this guy. He would have had 4. And we did the piercing. So actually, I would say he's still alive. But it's hard to say. We'll take it that he is off at the moment. Because I think I only did 3 damage to him. No, she came in and she struck him. And she would have struck him for at least 2 plus the onset is 3. And then she would have double striked him. So yeah, okay, we'll go with that. Even though I think it's a mistake. So we've got 4 life. So he's done 1. So he's done 1 gets rid of that. He does his bloodlust, which is basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he's 1, and even though 4, he still kills the monster. We have our dogs barking in the background. It is our lizard man's turn. He gets 5. He has a range of 1 or 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Puts him in range of our archer. He does get a 3. So our archer does have, of course, that a 2 armor, but let's take a roll. Because he's within 2 again, it's considered a strike. So he does strike. He is going to strike 3. So that is going to break his piece of equipment. So that is going to break his piece of equipment for 2. And he's going to take 1 of the damage to 4. Oh, plus he has an extra 1. So actually he's going to do an extra 1 damage. So he's actually going to take him down to a 3. Again, because of the terror card. Lots of little bits to remind ourselves here in this game. So we have come back. We are back to a full circle with our Felana. So Felana has a movement of 4. So Felana is going to run and go 1. Let's see, she was here. 1, 2, 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Puts herself in front of the orc. Or I should say the lizard man, who has 5 armor, which is kind of brutal. She's going to power her onslaught, which actually gives us the extra movement that she doesn't need. She has knockback if we have to use it. So it's time to battle. We are battling the bug soldier. So we can certainly power our onslaught, which we've already done 2. So we have potentially 3 damage. We're also piercing though, which is right there. And we have double strike because both our equipment is lightweight. So we take this, we have struck once, and because we strike past our equipment, we just go right to life, which is 3, 2, 3, and then we can do it again. We're going to roll because it says we got double strike, which means we can roll again. We swish. Not necessarily a good thing. We have 2 shots. That is only for long range. We do not have long range. Going into our next, we have our archer, Bilbo. Unfortunately, Bilbo at this point is now blocked. He does get 6, so he's going to move along and go 2, 4, and 6. So 2 because he moved into the yellow. Now he has both. I think he's going to go right after the orc because he's used up his armor. If he powers up, he could get piercing, but he doesn't need that. So I think what's going to happen is, I'm interested in what that other symbol. Interestingly enough, if he is within range, he gets piercing and backstab. So which gives him extra, but he's going to take his crossbow. He's going to go after the orc. So let's do that. He gets a shot. So he is going to do 3 damage to the orc out of the 6 damage that he has. Now it is the orc's turn. The orc gets to move 5, 2, 4. He can't do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He can't get close enough. Because you're going to go 2, 4... Now let's take a look at what the rules actually state about that. So according to the AI, he's just going to move 2 closest. And he's going to close the gap 2, 4. He can't move that extra space. We come to our wizard at this point, who has direct range to our... direct range to our orc, who's now she is now going to do exactly the same thing. So she's going to use her power 4, and we're going to roll a dice. She is long range, so she needs a critical or a shot. We have the shot. She will do 3 damage. Of course, that's all the damage she has, and she has killed the orc. The orc is now dead. Magog, who's way over here, he only has a 6 movement. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As far as he can go, that is all he can do at this point. We are now at the Bugman. The Bugman is now going to attack our rogue, who has no shielding at the moment. So the Bugman is going to attack. He swishes because he is in close range, which is good. Which is not good. Sorry. Wait a minute. She's going to attack. She swishes. It is now our archer's turn, who's sitting here. He does have line of sight. So he's actually going to move 2 and 4 because he has 6 movement. And now he's within that 1 to 2 range. He's going to use his power to give him Gloomy Bow, which allows him to backstab and pierce. So basically all he has to do is hit. Critical strike. We have killed the bug monster. We have now wiped out our next round of monsters. And that is as easy as it gets. Of course, it gets harder and harder because we'll pull another terror card, which is going to give our more power to our monsters in the next 3rd round and the 4th round, and then finally the final round. But I think this gives you the flavor of what is going on in the game. I think what we're going to do is come back and I'm going to clean this up, and we'll do some final thoughts around the game and stop it here. So, MiniQuest Adventures. I think I have some problems with this game. It's not as good as I would like to have been. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not a horrible game. But it is missing something that I can't quite put my finger on. But let's talk about the game itself. So starting with the rules. That is a thumbs down. Now, I don't usually get that critical, but the rules are a hot mess. There's grammatical errors. The order of where you find things is messed up in that book. You know, you go, oh, I got to set this up. We'll go to page 20, then go to the middle book, and then go to the front book, and then go to the end. So there's no reference card. So every time I do something, I've got to go back to the book again and again and again. You can see it's already starting to wear. This needs a reference cards. It also needs a reference card in terms of the turn order and what you can do, so I'm not going back to the book. So as part of my mandate, or kind of what I like to do, is I like to come to the table and approach it just as a new player. I play it out of the box, literally. I get enough of the rules to start playing. And if I make mistakes, I make mistakes. Because I am going to make the same mistakes probably you are. Maybe you're not. But there are no videos. So I am a player that does, who likes to get hands-on and watch videos for that learning process, which I did not have the advantage for here because there are no good videos. So we're going to put aside the rules. We're going to put aside the fact that there's no reference guides. We'll go to our components. Now, some of the components are excellent. The dice are good. There's our dice. The cards are excellent. I love these books. I love the cards and the boards, though they are warping, but that's not unusual here in Yellowknife. The counters, they're a little flimsy, and those monster calendars are I don't want to talk about those. I think you would have been better off with a little thicker cardboard, or even tiny meeples, or screen meeples, something that helps pop this. Now, I get it. It's supposed to be a smaller game, and that's fine. That takes care of the components. The components are good. They're adequate to the task. The theme, okay, so we have this a 16-bit adventure, but you can see that the artwork doesn't really match that 16-bit look that you get with other games. That's okay. The artwork is good. I love the monsters. The symbology is quite easy to read once you start getting through it and referring to the book. Again, trying to figure out the rules. Very easy to set up, so it's a quick setup. The narrative is missing. There is no narrative to this game. Why am I going into a dungeon, going through 4 times to get to the boss, doing the same thing over and over and over again, and then it's the end? What am I trying to accomplish? Am I raiding a castle? Am I trying to get some gold? There's a lack of real feeling of campaign here. Now, yes, I did get a piece of equipment, which was kind of nice. And I would get another piece of equipment here. And yes, the enemies are going to go up harder. So the next time, if we pulled our card out, what we would have gotten, let me just take a quick look here. We would have had another +1, +1, +1. So everybody would have gotten +2, +2, +2, making it a little harder. Now, I think I would have, not knowing what I know now, I would start with the mini quests right off the bat and not have the use of our special abilities, just to make that first one just a little bit more challenging. I didn't feel there was really any challenge here. Now, maybe the next one gets a little more challenging. Now, if you're thinking about a 16-bit arcade game, it kind of fits. It's easy, and then it's a little harder, and then a little harder, and then a lot harder, and then you hit the boss, and it's like crazy. I didn't feel in the easy level that I was particularly challenged. I didn't feel particularly challenged here. I'm assuming that I played it right based on the rules. So thematically, while I love fantasy theme, and who doesn't like going into a dungeon and going into a dungeon delve, I think we're missing chests. I think we're missing traps. I think we're missing events that could go on. Again, so there's things missing in here. This is just a straight tactical battle. And quite frankly, it wasn't that hard. And I don't know what if I go to level 3, again, there's 4 monsters, 3 monsters. Not a particularly challenge, right? It's these terror cards that are going to give us the challenge in the mix here. And I don't know if that's enough. So thematically, replayability, you're going to get the same monsters. You've got some replayability with your characters, but there's really not a lot different with the characters. Whether I used Bilbo or the other one, they start exact same equipment, except one has accurate bow versus gloomy bow. So it's onslaught versus whirlwind, or funnel versus something else, and bloodlust versus something else. But basically, it's the same characters. I'm not getting a feel that we have a lot of difference between the characters. I think that, having a longbow elf versus a crossbow with that 1 to 2 is nice. A longbow elf probably wouldn't even be able to fight at close range. And if you were engaged, you would be smack and you wouldn't be able to counterattack other than maybe run. So we've talked about theme, we've talked about replayability. So the value of the game. Now this game, I can't remember what the price is. I'll put it down I'll put it down in the comments or in the subtitles so you can see the value of what we paid for this game. I don't see this game holding its value. I don't think that if I was to sell a game, this is a game that I sell. Now, maybe I would take it on vacation because it's kind of, I can put it up. I'm going to Greece, and I can put it up on the table and play it real fast, and it might be mindless. But to tell you the truth, I've had more fun with One Deck Dungeon because there's a lot more challenge in this little tiny game than there is with this game here. I'm going to say that if I was going to give this out of 10, and I don't like to do that, but in this case, I think I can't give it 2 thumbs up, and I really don't want to give it 1 thumb up and 1 thumb down. I would say this is a 6 out of 10 game. I think if you are not missing anything, if you don't add this to your collection, I think that's all I can say about it. My name is Harry Jacobs. I am the Northeast 60 Gamer, and this is the Northeast 60 Gaming channel. If you like what you saw, please hit the like button, subscribe. I appreciate that. It just shows my appreciation. Hit the bells if you want notifications. I hang out on Board Game Revolution and Board Games for One, and I'm starting to do some exclusive content for that channel. Basically, some of their weekly reviews and weekly questions I'm putting in video format. So if you want a look at that exclusive type of work, please have a look at Board Games for One. Also, Thomas Covert did his first streaming cast yesterday. I'm going to just shout out and say he did a great job. They did Palaces of Carrara, and that is a lovely game. And if you haven't backed it on GameFound, go off and have a look at it. I think you'll be surprised at the quality of that game. Other than that, it is minus 35 out today. I'm going to get on with my day, have another coffee, start editing this. I was going to do an extended playthrough. Quite frankly, I don't want to do it. I honestly can say that this game is a bit underwhelming, and I'd rather go to the dentist, to tell you the truth. 6 out of 10 is probably generous at this point. I'm going to say that we're really not happy with this game at all. We'll leave it at that. Maybe if I took it on vacation and played it for what it was, it is a 6 out of 10. The mechanics are pretty sound. It's missing narrative. The rules are a mess. But I don't know. I don't think at this point, I played through 2 rounds. I don't think I can do another one, and so we're going to leave it at that. We're going to talk to you later. I hope you appreciate the honesty. Really, I don't know. I hate giving bad reviews. I am sad now. I'll have to play something that perhaps gives us a little bit more joy in the world. Anyway, I am out of here. We'll talk to you later.